All right, good day, boys and girls. Welcome back to another lesson. What's new at the zoo is our book for today. So get your writing books and let's head up. Left-hand side, book 37. What's new at the zoo? We're going to be working on some word work today. Plurals that add S or ES. Additionally, make sure you have today's date, whatever date that is for you. And then you can write these 8 words. So these words are all singular. If a word is singular, what does that mean? So I hope that you said a word that is singular means that it's only one. So we have one tray, one butterfly, one turkey, one valley, one lady, one party, one pony, and one hobby. So these are all singular things, meaning that they're only one. So at this point, put me on pause so you can get all of this written down, and then we will continue. Okay, so you should be ready to continue. So if we want to make these plural means more than one. So one way that we can make these plural is by adding S or ES. But the tricky part is to figure out when do you add S to make a word plural and when do you add an ES. Okay, so I've said it many times in many other videos, English is a very tricky language to learn because there are so many rules, but the rules don't always apply in every situation. So a rule that I learned when I was a little girl is that if a word ends in Y, you drop the Y and then add IES to make a word plural. But when I looked at some of these words, I said, well, that rule doesn't really apply here. But I did notice something, okay? So I'm going to share with you what I noticed. All right, so here we go. You have these words written out. So the first word is tray, like a serving tray. So to make this plural very straightforward, we can just add an S. So it becomes TRAYS, okay? Next, we have the word butterfly. So if we wanted to make it plural, we would add an ES, but we have to drop the Y and then add IES. So that's what I learned as a little girl. Drop the Y, add IES. So it will become BUTTERFL. Drop the Y, add an IES to make it butterflies. With me so far? Okay. Next we have the word turkey. And turkey also ends in Y. But we won't drop the Y and add IES. We would just have to add an S. So turkey would become TURKEYS. Turkeys. Okay, so, what I noticed was that before the Y, we have a vowel. We have this vowel E. And I noticed a pattern that whenever the Y had a vowel before it, you didn't have to drop the Y to add IES. So it seems like if there is a vowel before the Y, you don't have to drop the Y and add IES. Okay, so here we have an L before the Y. Here we have the vowel. Okay, so for example, valley. What will valley be? If we want to make it valleys, would it look like this? Just add an S? Or would we have to drop the Y and add IES? Okay, so looking at it, we have that E before the Y, so we would just add an S. VALLEYS. Okay, next we have the word lady. So we want to make ladies. What will we have to do? Look at the examples from before. Does it have a vowel before the Y? Nope, so let's drop the Y and add IES. Next we have party. Does Y have a vowel before it? No, it has a T. So party would be PARTIES. Next we have the word pony. We want to make it ponies. You want to spell it before I do? P-O-N-I-E-S. And last, we have one hobby, an activity that we enjoy doing. We're going to make it hobbies. H-O-B-B-I-E-S. Okay. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. All right, so next we are going to move on to our text for today. It's a nonfiction text, What's New in the Zoo? Okay, so remember nonfiction, real information. Let's look at some text features. Okay, normally have a table of contents, tells us the different sections of the book. What's new at the zoo, babies, the early days of the zoo, a more natural home, caring for the animals, why we need zoos, the modern zoo. Okay, as you read through, you're going to see actual photographs of real creatures in the zoo, captions below the photographs. Captions give you more information about the pictures. Okay, so there's a polar bear. We have the headings that tell you about each section and information that you're going to read. Here's an illustration to depict what life was like a while ago. Okay, so as we're reading the book, I want you to think about the writer's purpose of what do you think the writer's purpose was in writing this book? It's an expository piece. It's explaining what's going on at zoos. But in my opinion, it was a bit biased in that I think the author wanted us to feel a certain way about zoos. He put zoos in a very positive light. Okay, so zoos weren't always a great place for animals, mainly because people from long ago, hundreds of years ago, didn't know how to treat them. But the stance I think the author is taking is that they think that zoos are a good thing because he gives us lots of positives of how zoos are helpful. But there are many people out there in the world who think that zoos are cruel to animals, the way that they're treated, the way that they are housed. So as we're reading this book, I want you to form your own opinion. Maybe you already know a bit of information about animals around the world, but as you're reading, form an opinion about how you think zoos treat animals, if this is a safe place for animals, if this is the best environment for animals. There are always pros and cons, but I want you to form your own opinion. So I'm going to read a bit with you, and then you're going to read the rest on your own. Okay, so what's new at the zoo? Okay, what's new at the zoo, babies? It was a good year for gorillas. In 2010, 26 baby gorillas were born in zoos around the world. These babies are being raised the way baby gorillas are raised in the wild, by their mothers. Gorillas in zoos haven't always been so lucky. For a long time, the only gorillas in zoos were ones that had been caught in the wild. They were taken from their mothers when they were young and sold to zoos where they lived in cages all alone. Could you imagine being a little baby just taken away from your mom and stuck into a foreign place and nobody to talk to you? But zoos have changed. Today, most zoos have large outdoor areas where gorillas live together and raise babies. It's just one of the ways that zoos are working to keep animals happy and healthy. So a mother gorilla and her baby. The early days of zoos. Some of the world's most popular zoos have been around for a long time. One of these old zoos is the London Zoo in England. It opened in the 1800s. In those days, zookeepers knew very little about how animals lived in the wild. So the keepers often didn't know what was best for the animals. The keepers kept the animals by themselves in small, bare cages. The animals were often bored and lonely. There was nothing for them to do or see. Many animals died because they didn't get the right food or care. Wild animals were kept in cages like this one. Okay, so they said that in the early days, this is how animals were treated. But I know that there are still some zoos in some parts of the world where they are still treated like this. Okay, so at this point, I want you to press pause. I want you to complete reading What's New at the Zoo, and then we're going to do a writing activity. Okay, so I hope you read everything, including the back sleeve, the back cover. Okay, so if you haven't read this part, I want you to read this part as well. So just put me on pause again and read this section, and then we'll continue. Okay? All right, so I told you that the writer had a certain point of view in this book. He told us a little bit about how zoos were negative, but mostly it was positive and how they've changed and how it's educational, etc. So, comprehension. Writer's point of view in an argument. So this is an argument. He's arguing for zoos, but this is what I want you to think about. Although living conditions in zoos has improved greatly since the 1800s, some people still have the opinion that zoos are harmful to animals. Provide examples from this text. So even though the author is giving us a list of reasons of why zoos are beneficial and helpful to animals, some people around the world, and a few comments in this book, they still believe that zoos are harmful to animals. So I want you to look back and find the evidence that tells us why some people feel that they are harmful. And if you even want to do an extension and go a little bit further, I want you to do some research online to find some zoos around the world that are not taking very good care of their animals, and bring that information that you can share with us in class. Okay? Looking forward to seeing you next week to discuss what you've learned, what you found out, to look at your writing books to see what work you've been up to. Okay? So that is our lesson for today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.